Hello, my name is Mariana, and today I'm going to be presenting the EZLN case. First, context of the problematic. On the morning of January 1st of the year 1994, the news were filled up with an armed uprising of indigenous groups in San Cristobal de las Casas, declaring war on the Mexican state, demanding liberty, democracy, and justice for all indigenous groups in Mexico, calling themselves the Zapatista Army of National Liberation. Towards this new armed group, President Carlos Salinas sent a public message directly criminalizing the EZLN. He also invalidated their speech by saying that the government had already attended to everything they were demanding. In other words, he was indifferent to the motives of this uprising and therefore to the indigenous groups. As a response, instead of initiating a dialogue to listen to their demands, he directly sent military forces to fight and stop at all costs the EZLN. This confrontation lasted for 12 full days, with a cost of 100 lives. Finally, cutting up public attention to the indigenous groups and their needs. To understand the importance of intercultural dialogue in small or big conflicts, we will now analyze the response of the Mexican government towards this uprising, which lacked intercultural skills. For the first one, ethnocentrism, which implies that one culture is the norm and others are outliers. When the Mexican state noticed this uprising, they implied automatically to be a barbaric or outrageous way of demanding their rights, because that's not how things are supposed to be done, but from their own perspective. Which takes us to the second point, cultural relativism. The government, instead of empathizing with the EZLN and thinking the reasons why they're uprise, the means they had, and the historical oppression that led them to take force, they assumed it was completely unacceptable and sent the military forces to fight them. Which leads us to the third point, internalized otherness. The Mexican state has never explicitly expressed otherness towards indigenous groups. Nevertheless, the way they treated them showed their true intentions to defeat a group as if they were outsiders of Mexico, just for being indigenous groups. Each of the participants in the conflict had main actors that were the face of the entity. For the EZLN, Commander Ramona and Subcommander Marcos were the leaders of the movement. Due to the public's attention, they became practically famous figures of justice for the indigenous groups. The EZLN demanded legal and political recognition in the Mexican system, caused by the historical cultural oppression towards indigenous groups. The Mexican state was mainly represented by President Carlos Salinas, who had an aggressive attitude towards the conflict, and President Ernesto Cedillo, who performed the San Andres Larrainzar Agreement in February 1996. The military forces were the right hand of the government, making them responsible for the inhumane acts committed against indigenous groups. The Mexican state just wanted to calm the national crisis caused by the EZLN by all means. A clear example takes place in December 22nd of 1997, where 45 innocent indigenous people were murdered by the military forces. They intended to stop the conflict by force instead of starting a dialogue. They also wanted to avoid international intervention or conflict caused by the uprising, because during that period, NAFTA was being signed, so they wanted to avoid losing the right to sign. Intercultural dialogue should be the main actor of any conflict involving power and different cultures. It allows all parts involved to deeply empathize with each other, possibly leading to a solution. The EZLN and the Mexican state is a clear example of a of intercultural dialogue from both parties. The Mexican government judged the intentions of the EZLN and didn't question the roots. The San Andres Larrainzar Agreement is an example of an initial intercultural dialogue. Nevertheless, the agreement was not respected and it lost its value. Therefore, we can see that it is necessary to compromise with honesty on everything said during the dialogue, because it is a place of respect and trust. A proposal to tackle all the necessities established by the EZLN together with indigenous groups is to generate new agreements through an authentic intercultural dialogue that involves political and social aspects, resulting in benefits for the indigenous communities. Thank you very much for your attention. Here are the resources used for this presentation.